Hey man.
Hey man.
Long time no see.
Yeah.
We're back after our Q&A last night, which I thought was a lot of fun. Did you, other than the squeaking microphones, I think we had
Oh
a, it
yeah.
was a
I
good
sort of
time.
like blocked that out of my memory, but yeah, no, it was fun. It
And that
was.
was your, I think you told me that was your first time to get a reaction like from the audience where
Mhm.
we're watching the film.
For this film. Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting
Yeah.
to see it like that, especially for the first time. They were all great. Seemed to love it. Had some good questions.
Yeah.
Actually, made me kind of scratch my head a little bit.
Guys, if you're just joining us, I'm Mark Walters. I'm here with Asa Butterfield, and we're talking about The Space Between Us, which is a really fun film if you haven't had a chance to see it yet. One of the things that I do a lot of those Q&As with people when they come in town. One of the things that I think is a surefire sign that people like the movie is that everybody sticks around for the Q&A, and it seemed like everybody was there. They had questions. They were wanting to engage you. So that's got to be a really good feeling to make you know that you connected with the audience that way.
It is, yeah. It would be a bit more worrying if there was just kind of like 5 or 6 people spread around in the audience. But no, everyone seemed really interested
Yeah.
and wanted to know more, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were first approached about doing this film, how did they sell it to you? Did they sell it to you as like a road movie romance, or did they sell it to you as something different?
Honestly, I cannot remember. The first time I read the script, I was 13 years old. Around the same time I read Ender's Game. In fact, I think I read them both in the same week. So you can see how long this has been kind of
Wow. Yeah, it's been gestating a while.
progressing and developing. And as I got older, so did the script. It kind of got more mature, and the character aged as I did. Um, and so by the time they kind of were ready to make it, I was ripe ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm a science fiction fan, but as you said, this film kind of mashes a lot of different ideas and themes together. It's a road trip. It is a romance. Ultimately, I think it's a coming of age film about
Yeah.
this boy kind of figuring out where he belongs on a massive kind of scale, on a kind of interplanetary scale.
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about last night because I think that there would obviously be kind of that temptation to maybe play up the otherworldly elements, but if anything, that more acts as like a bookend, and it really is at its core about the two, your character and Tulsa and your relationship with one another, and it becomes a very sweet, like you said, coming of age story. But at the same time, I think it's timely because in the news we're talking about going to Mars, we're talking about kind of re-upping the whole space travel thing. So it's a perfect time for this film.
It is.
Yeah.
It's massively relevant, as you said, especially now. And I think, as well as that, the themes which it kind of promotes and which I hope people really gain from it are also very relevant about our planet and the appreciation we often don't show for our planet.
Yeah.
And how I think this film will hopefully open people's eyes to really kind of understanding how lucky we are and really kind of having a renewed interest in the natural world.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
There's also kind of a great underlying theme of the idea that there is somebody for everybody. Like if you feel awkward or if you feel out of touch or maybe not connected with other people, that there really is somebody out there for everybody, and that these two could find one another with such extraordinary circumstances. I think that's a very sweet sort of subplot to the whole thing.
No,
Yeah.
it is, and they are kind of drawn to each other from their differences, and they change each other. And you see how Gardner changes Tulsa and shows her a whole new side to the world, which she had kind of blocked out. And, they're both isolated in their own way, which again is what draws them together. And that isolation and that kind of questioning, I think, is something that's very relatable to
Yeah.
people who watch it. It's the kind of questions we always ask ourselves, especially as a teenager, kind of growing up, thinking like, is this normal? How should I behave? And yeah, so hopefully people will really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is actually in the trailers, but I just let out such a hearty laugh, is the moment when you see a horse, and it's just kind of like, what is that? And it's just such this great thing that you don't think about, like simple things, and how what a difference that would make to someone like you, living your entire life on Mars and then coming here and then seeing an animal for the first time. And I love the way that you played that moment. Was that something that you got to kind of improvise and play around with and try in different ways?
Yeah, I mean, it's as with a lot of Gardner's kind of things and quirks. Peter, the director, and I just still really wanted to have fun with it and kind of really make them most of this opportunity to have a character who's so out of touch and so kind of different. And so yeah, in that moment, he just said, yeah, just like, I want you to make this weirdest noise you can make, and just kind of have this horse blow your mind. And I was like, sure, I'll try my best.
Yeah, it was really fun. And we also talked last night about how like the suits that you wore, and you were saying like they were very hot, but at the same time I was saying that they seemed very kind of sleek and form-fitting, like maybe not quite as awkward as what we're used to seeing, which again I think plays into the progression of technology and space travel and things like that. What was there a particular moment in the film, like where you were maybe using some of the tech or wearing one of the suits where you were like, this is really cool? I mean, obviously you've had background with that with Ender's Game and things like that. You've had those high tech suits on before, but was any of that stuff just kind of otherworldly to you in the moment?
Something I did find interesting was how at the start of the film, I mean, it spans over 16 years, and at the start you see the kind of modern like astronauts uniforms that they have today, the kind of orange, quite bulky, and you see them a few times in the film, and I tried them on, kind of clobber around in them. They're not very easy to move. And then by the end of the film, when they kind of move people back, we've got these much more sleek, these ones, exactly. So there is the progression you see within the movie and the technology they use, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot. And I also appreciated the fact that it wasn't so futuristic that we couldn't relate to it. Like it seemed like something that, yeah, maybe that's just a couple of years away. You know, like we're so close to it right now that it felt very grounded in reality, which is another reason why I think the movie works so well. And then with you and Britt, you know, you mentioned also last night that you guys didn't have a lot of time to sort of figure out the chemistry that you had with one another. What do you think was the secret of allowing that to work on set? Like, what made it click for you personally?
Well, I mean, when you're working with another actor, actress, what you really hope for is just to be able to kind of be relaxed around them and to have fun. Because for me, I hate working with people who take the whole thing too seriously, because then you're just like, then you get dragged down. It's like, oh, guys, this is like work now, rather than being able to enjoy it and kind of play with it. Which, when you're acting, being able to play like that is what gets the really sweet and memorable moments. And with our characters, something I think that they actually wanted was because our characters are meeting for the first time in that scene, face to face, like physically. I think they wanted that sort of starting awkwardness almost between us, which there is. And when you meet someone for the first time, it takes a few days to kind of get comfortable around them. And so I think we used that in the film.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to remember, because I think I've seen everything you've been in. Was that your first love scene in a movie?
I think it is. Yes, it is. It is. Well,
well,
I mean, it's kind of implied.
Right, it's more implied.
But,
It's sweet. It's not
It's
like
sweet. It's not too erotic.
Right. Yeah. But hey, you know,
Hey, take that up
not
for
bad.
this. Yeah. Not bad.
I did want to ask you, because it was touched upon last night by an audience question, and I was surprised it took as long as it did to get to it. But you were one of the final runners for Spider-Man. When you think about roles like that, is that the kind of thing that you think because we also talked about James Bond, like you said, it would be cool to play James Bond maybe further down the line. But when you play those types of roles, I would think as an actor that's in some ways almost a little confining, because then you're sort of trapped in that stereotype of that role for such a long time. Whereas when you play movies like this, you have the freedom to kind of do anything. Like there's no preconceptions of the character. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like it's in some ways more freeing to play a movie where you're not playing a pre-established character?
Absolutely. Whether it from a kind of career perspective, that you don't sort of want to get typecast, or you want to be remembered for more roles than just one, which a lot of people do. A lot of people get caught up, especially in the big kind of what they call it, like multi-film kind of worlds.
Franchises.
Franchises, the word franchises, which is very easy to get kind of sucked up into that. And as well as that, when it's an original character, original story, you have much more freedom as an actor to kind of leave your own mark and kind of do your own thing. So yeah, I think it's there are perks and negatives to doing both, and whether or not I get a part, I find something positive always comes out of it. regardless because it means I can do something else, or this won't happen, which may be a good thing, may be a bad thing. It's really hard to tell in this industry.
Yeah, and since we kind of touched upon it, James Bond, do you have a favorite James Bond or a favorite James Bond movie, perhaps? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I really like Casino Royale
Yeah.
and Goldmember.
Goldfinger?
Goldfinger.
It's okay.
Sorry,
No,
I'm
you were thinking of the Austin
I'm thinking of
Powers
Austin
movie.
Powers,
No, and that's
which
a
is-
perfectly
which is
honest
actually
mistake to make.
Just as good, in fact.
Yeah.
Austin Powers. Yeah, maybe I should be Austin
Maybe
Powers.
you should be Austin Powers.
Maybe, yes.
We're going to start a campaign
Yeah.
right now for Ace of Butterfield to be Austin Powers. You could be the new Austin Powers. You know, he's supposed to be making another one. You could pass the torch on to you. It would be great.
Oh, that would be a hell of a torch.
I
I think that's even more pressure than James Bond.
I think in some ways
to
it
be
would
honest.
be. I think in some ways it would be. Well, we got to wrap it up, but I just want to tell you, man, that I've been following your career ever since Boy in Striped Pajamas. I think you're doing great work. I think you consistently do great characters and personifications of those characters. So just keep up the great work, and we'll keep watching you, man.
Thank you very
Thanks so
much.
much. Appreciate
Cheers.
it. Yeah.